very much awaited and looked forward to session, which is the review of cashew kernel market during the year gone by, that is 2018, and what's in store for all of us in the year 2019 as far as the cashew kernel market is being spoken of. And to moderate the session, may I invite Mr. Vu Thai Song from Long Son Joint Stock Company, Vietnam. We'd just like to quickly mention here that Long Son is the largest processors of cashew nut in the world and is one of the largest exporters of cashew kernels to almost all the leading cashew markets. And Mr. Vu Thai Song is a remarkable leader of the company, leading from the front, and has been instrumental in growing the company to this level in just about a matter of 2 decades. So a big round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for Mr. Vu Thai Song. Thank you so much for joining us here. And we now invite our panelists, Mr. Somnath Chatterjee. We request Mr. Somnath Chatterjee to join us here. He's the head of supply chain, ITC Foods Limited, India. Mr. Ranjit Walia, the CHI, Commodities Handlers Incorporation. Mr. Kees Blokland, Managing Director, Global Trading and Agency. And Mr. Chen Wen from Yinghuan International Company Limited. Mr. Somnath Chatterjee is a well-recognized person from the supply chain profession in India. Under his leadership, he has redefined several value chains and delivered outstanding results. Today, he would share his perspective on Indian cashew kernel market and the way forward. Mr. Ranjit Walia from CHI Commodities Handlers has been buying cashew kernels from all processing countries for US and Canadian market. A keen observer of the market, known for his independent opinion, Mr. Ranjit Walia would provide his understanding of what's in store for cashew kernels in 2019 in US and the Canadian market. Mr. Kees Blokland, Managing Director, Global Trading Agency, has been working with cashew sector for more than 2 decades, buying cashews for European market. Today, he would provide his views on the emerging trends in European cashew kernel market. And last but not the least, Mr. Cheng Weng would provide a glimpse of the immense opportunity that China market presents and ways to tap these opportunities. And with that, of course, I hand it over to Mr. Vu Thai Song, Long Song. It's over to you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tyson from Long Son Joint Stock Company. Excuse me for my voice is not very clear today. Hope you can still understand it. So I think first of all, I would like to say that during our last meeting in Vinacash, all the processors in Vietnam, we asked them, if anyone making money in the year of 2018, no hands rise up. No hands rise up. No one. No one making money last 2018. And sadly say that many factory and many companies are out of business and they will not be in business again. So last year was very bad year for the cashew industry in Vietnam. I think it is the same for India, because some of my Indian friends blaming that because of Vietnam have bought raw-seed at high price, so Indian had to follow. So Indian also face problems. So today, I think one of the mistakes we make is that we a bit, overconfidence that the consumers or the kernel buyer can afford to pay the high price of kernel. This is our big mistake. That's why you see, last year at this time of the year, when the cashew crop of Vietnam and West Africa coming in, the price of cashew kernel like WW320 was $470, $480 per pound FOB from Vietnam. And today, same time, same January, the price is about $340 per pound. So it's a 35% less than same time of last year. So today we would like to touch about the kernel market, so that we know that so many African people are here. You are supplying raw cashew nut. You think that the price is low, so you say, we are buying cheap price or something. But today, if we look at the kernel market, so you can understand a bit more, how the processor like us, buy raw cashew nut, what price we should buy, and what price is reasonable for the consumer. So first, I would like to, our presenter here, there's people from America, Europe, India, China, and Vietnam. So each people will give you some information about their market. So first, I would like to invite Mr. Ranjit Walia to speak about, USA market. Okay? Yeah.
It's always entertaining to be part of Pu Thai Son's panel. There's going to be a lot more from him as the afternoon progresses, I'm sure. He seems to have a crystal ball that no one else seems to have in this room. Let's look at the US and Canadian markets. I'm Ranjit Walia. We have been in the cashew business since 1979, 1980. And we are importers. We distribute in the North American markets. Can I have the next slide, please? These are the main usages that we've seen in North America in the last few years. It's been used in energy bars, in cashew butter. These are some of the new ingredient usages that we've seen on cashews. The import figures, which is quite surprising, we've had such a large fluctuation in market movements in the last 3 years. And yet, if we look back, the imports have not come down. 16-17, you saw a rise from 149,000 to 157,000 tons, even though we had a dramatic upside in the market. It's because there's about an 18-month lag time from the prices at the beginning of the calendar year till the product is used up or felt at the supermarket level. In 2018 again, even though we saw high prices in 17, in 18 we managed to sustain it because there were many new applications that we found for cashews, ingredients being one of them. We also had some of the other tree nuts that were fairly high in pricing in 2017, and this did not result in any downside market pressure on cashews. The question is, what is 19 going to do? So I'm just, sort of going to take a little deeper dive into a conversation that has been taking place at this meeting for the last 48 hours. And there were some very interesting observations, because I think everyone kind of looks at their own book or their own position in the market. So the only new crop seed that I see available is from Ghana. Is that correct? That today you can buy, the only physical available new crop seed is from Ghana. And I was informed that the FOB farm gate price was around 5 GHC, which works out to about 1.01 kilos in US funds. This is FOB farm gate. And then I was told that there is a cash and carry commission, I don't know what this means, but maybe someone can explain it to me, of GHC 0.5 to 1 per kilo. Then I was told that the CNF price this equates to is about 1600 to 1650. There are some people nodding, which I guess makes sense. And then I was told that the price from the Vietnamese packers today for shipment in April is around 3.4. Now, we were at the PTNPA convention, which is where a lot of the roasters, generally give the importers an insight into where the pricing should be. And it happened last week in Palm Springs in California. And over there I was told that the roasters were selling to the private label retailers at the equivalent of 3.75 landed in their factories. So what I'm wondering is which calculator people are using, because if the end user or the consumer is paying 375 and the import price that we believe is $1,650 for seed into Vietnam, then how are people going to make money? And as Mr. Wu Tai Sun mentioned a few minutes ago, everyone lost money in 2018. So are we going to do this again? Are we kind of suckers of punishment? Are we used to getting beaten up all the time? Do we like to lose money? Is this the only business that we believe we should be in? I'm a little confused over here. So I just hope that we can all sort of take a step back and see where we are headed if we don't find a way in which all the various stakeholders are allowed to survive and make a small living out of it. I think there must be a risk-reward ratio that we must give to each one of them. And, it's very, very difficult for us to see this model continue. And I do hope that, some of the other people on this podium can share their thoughts with us. Thank you.
So, thank you very much for Mr. Ranjit Walia to have some information about American market. So, next, Mr. Keith Blockland will have some information about European market. Okay.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a pleasure to be here and to share a little bit of information about the market in Europe. I'm Managing Director of Global Trading. We belong to a group which also has some processing facilities, one in Burkina Faso and one in Benin. I will bombard you with some figures, what's going on, what happened over the past years, and I will also have an outlook into 2019. So the demand for cashews in the EU, the attractiveness of cashews over other nuts, what is the share of cashews in the total tree-nut bowl, so to speak, the drivers of demand for 2019, the factors to be considered, I said by processors and exporters while supplying into the market, but with this also the raw seed traders or the producing countries should be involved, and the opportunities and risk for the cashews going forward. In this figure you see the demand for cashews into the EU, and then the first column is the EU 28, that means all the countries involved in the European Union. The second is the Euro 19, that's all the countries working on the euro, so not on a local, but on the euro. Then we have the Netherlands, Germany, and the United Kingdom. And then in the numbers next to that, you see what happened over the past years. the difference between 2018 versus 2015 and 2018 versus 2017. And you see that the Netherlands and Germany are significantly down when we compare 2017 with 2018, but that the euro area, 19, so where we work with the euro, is up by 1%. So this is an indication that cashews were imported into different countries than just Netherlands and Germany. Overall, it's quite stable, what you can see in these figures as well. If you then compare the imports with the price development for the cashew kernels into the EU, then is what Ranjit just told us, you see the impact of price increases just later on. I mean, the blue line, that is the total imports into the EU, and the orange line, that is the price development. And as you can see, when the blue line, the imports into the EU, was quite stable, but then when prices go up, you see 6 months later, you see that demand, that imports are losing faith as well. The figure next to that, that is just an indication of the total imports versus the world crop growth. The price development of cashews 2015, 2018, but everybody knows about those. I mean, that's not for me to explain a lot about. What you see, though, is the prices for pieces are relatively stable and having less violence than the prices of wholes. The price development of all tree nuts between 2015 to 2018, then you see the highest line, that's the dark blue line, that's from macadamias. You see the light blue line, that's for Brazil nuts, because they had a very, very bad crop in 2017, which also still had an impact in 2018. And then you see cashews in between pecans and almonds. The tree nut production and consumption all over the world. The cashew production, that's the gray area, and then you see that Asia and Africa are the biggest, are giving us the production of cashew nut kernels. And then you see next to that the world tree nut estimated consumption by region, in which we see that North America and Europe are still the biggest consumers, being approximately 50% of the total tree nut consumption worldwide. But what also is noticeable is that Asia is picking up. What is the attractiveness of other nuts in 2018 when we compare cashews with the other tree nuts which are in the bowl? And then you see that in high income economies that the percentage of the nut bowl is less for cashews than it's in middle income economies. That also has to do with the producing areas. America is a big consumer of almonds, but 85 to 90% of the almonds is coming from America anyway. So it's a fact that they use more almonds than the rest of the world, while cashews is bigger in the middle income economies because some of the producing areas are middle income economies as well. The cashew consumption per capita, and all those numbers I received from the INC, the International Nut Council. It's quite noticeable as well. When we look at those, then you see that India is a big consumer per capita, as is the EU and America. But after that, I did some calculations on the numbers. What is going to happen when China would increase only to if they only would triple the consumption which they have now. And then when you do the calculations, you see that we need around 700,000 tons of RCN additional. And then we just have an increase in China. In the column after that, we also looked at world population. What's world population going to do? And then we all have to focus on the Indian market, because there we have, and that's according the World Population website, we will have the strongest growth of population by approximately 10% between 2020 and 2030. Then to realize that they also are a big consumer per capita of cashews, that gives a great potential for the cashew market. What do we need to consider altogether between the whole industry, so including the producers, which I did not write on this slide? Generic marketing, I mean, that is a key to success. We have seen that with the almond market, where the almond board is doing a great job. They spend millions and millions of dollars, which are paid by the industry, but they are getting great success out of that because they create customer awareness of cashews. They are displaying the health benefits of eating cashews. And another one which we have, which generic marketing has to focus on, is the direct connection between the farmer and the consumer, traceability. And that's what the European consumer, at least, is pushing on. Another factor which not in particular comes from the consumer yet, but I mean they obviously would be interested to learn about it, is adding value to the byproducts. The investment from the governments into CNSL, and I heard a great presentation of TechnoServe this morning which was promising. Energy generating companies that create value for shells, add value to the apples, I just heard that as well, and both will allow farmers to benefit down the line as well and create stability. The drivers of demand, once again, consumer awareness, traceable and sustainable supply chains. Consumer want to know what he eats, where it comes from, and if it's healthy. Stable prices create a growth in demand, as we have shown in the first slide as well. I mean, when prices are stable, then you see a significant growth by 5, 6, 7%. When prices are going up, we are still fortunate that we have a more or less stable market, but then we are holding on the level where we are, and it's not creating or triggering consumers to buy more cashews. As you can see in the figure below, the blue part is the cashews which we import into Europe, which is coming from Vietnam. And then to realize that the yellow part which is in there, that's Africa, that 50% of the world production, more than 50% of world production is coming from Africa. Only a very small part of that is processed in Africa, and the blue part of that we are losing traceability, which is a very important thing. Good and guaranteed quality. I mean, more and more of our buyers are asking for food safety certificates on factories whom we are working with. And that's really to look into. I mean, if you are not having a food safety certificate, take care. I mean, you need one in the coming five years to decade, because otherwise you will not be able to sell your product. What we also see, and I was at the same conference as Ranjit, the PTMPA in Palm Springs, buyers are more and more interested or requiring pasteurized product because of all the regulations in America. America is first in line. The FSMA is requiring how do you guarantee your food safety, and at the end then pasteurization is the solution, and Europe will follow on that at a later stage. Some of our customers are requiring it already, some of it are thinking about it. What are the opportunities and risks for the cashew industry going forward? The opportunities, I see them really in health claims. We have to tell the world how good our product is, that cashews are an ideal replacement for meat, that it contains the proteins we need for our body. Local processing, process in Africa, while are we shipping around the world? Positive impact on the carbon footprint. I mean, when we process in Africa, when we process African product into Vietnam, it's having a 10 times as much impact on the carbon footprint than when we would process in Africa. The positive image to the consumer, the traceability, the risk, price volatility, but I mean we spoke about that in length already, and quality issues because we are not taking care of our product. Quality guarantees your future. I mean we have seen it in many, many products, and that's also with cashews. Thank you very much, because I still think that cashew future look bright.
Thank you very much for Mr. Key about information of the consumption and import into European market. I think, after Mr. Ranjit and Mr. Key, that you can see that the import of cashew kernel into America and into Europe is good. It's good. USA is up and European is steady. So maybe you raise a question. So the import is good. So why the kernel price dropped so much? Why? Because I am processor, I can understand. Maybe for you, you may be a bit, strange, but for me, I can understand. Why? Because This is because of the efforts of Vietnam and India decrease the price to increase consumption. Because, Vietnam, we keep processing, and then when we sell high, we just sell some quantity, and later in 2018, at first we sell at high price, and we keep processing, and then buyer don't accept high price. The buyer don't accept high price. They said 470, 480 is too much. They don't accept. So we are Vietnamese processor begin to reduce the price, to push consumption. So this is, because of Vietnam and India reduce the price. So import cashew to America and European is good, like that figure. So I just want to explain to you why import is good, but the price decreased too much. Because, we have to sell. Vietnam and India have to sell. We cannot eat all the cashew. So in order to attract the American, importer and European importer to buy, we have to reduce our price. This is our problem. So next will be Mr. Somnath Chatterjee from ITC Foods. He will be giving you some information about Indian market.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's a little heartening to see this room a little more filled up than it was than post-lunch session. I hear a lot of despondency around the room. There seems to be a little bit of bearish mood. So I thought I'll cheer you all up and give you some good news from India. The caveat is that I am not a cashew expert, neither am I a cashew trader. However, I represent almost 20% of humanity. I represent India, and very proud to do so on the eve of our Republic Day, which is tomorrow. And the good news from India is that consumption is robust. So with that, we have very limited time, and I'd like to quickly take you through what we look at cashew as a nut, as a processor, and a food processor, as an end user. While all of us in the cashew industry were grappling with price volatility, that period of time also coincided with a couple of policy measures which the government of India had taken, policy reforms. One was called demonetization, and the second was the implementation of GST. While we are about 18 months away from the implementation of the GST, that was 18 months back, we are seeing demand come back, but during the last year and a half, there was a little bit of a slowdown. And while I won't say that the Indian food processing sector went into a decline, it didn't go negative, but from a compounded annual rate of growth of about 12 to 14%, it actually slowed down to about 2-3%. But we are already seeing green shoots again, and things are coming back to normal very fast. At about $30 billion, Indian branded food industry is a huge industry, and we've already discussed the Indian population. We've discussed the fact that we are almost 20% of humanity today, and what's interesting is that a lot of this is a young population. So we have that demographic dividend. We have a large middle class, which is very rapidly growing, and their income parities are improving. And they do have a fondness for cashew nuts. I mean, Indians, as someone I heard in the morning saying that if given a choice of almonds, and it was yesterday, I think, this gentleman, Mr. Gupta from Bikanerwala, he mentioned that if he was offered cashew nuts and almonds, he would always pick up cashew nuts. And yes, we see that in our consumers. They always have this propensity to eat cashews. So that is what we were discussing. The fact that Indians are more affluent now, they realize that nuts are a very healthy alternative. Some of the slightly more affluent Indians are aware of lifestyle diseases such as diabetes, etc., and they realize that cashew nuts, for instance, are a very healthy alternative. It's got a healthy fat. However, in fact, my predecessor just alluded to the fact that the Almond Board of US has done a sterling job in creating awareness, and even in India, the kind of awareness that they've created about the health benefits of almond, that's been very powerful. And most mothers today would recommend almonds to their kids because of its so-called cognitive, regenerative powers, etc. But I think we need to do more back in India in terms of creating awareness that cashew is actually an equally healthy nut and it's got its own set of benefits. As you can see, that's a quick snapshot of how the consumption went across a few years. So these are images of few of the products in which cashew is used in various forms. We've taken great care to not publicize our own products, but show you a cross-section of how it is used in India. Now, these are some statistics which my team has put together, and as I've already given you a caveat, I'm not an expert on production, demand, supply. However, it would seem that the production of cashew nuts in India is not really keeping pace with the growth in Indian demand, and therefore there is a gap, and I think structurally we will need to remain dependent on imports. We have a few issues which plague us back in India. We have fairly poor farm mechanization at the moment. We have a higher dependency on imports, and like many emerging economies, we have a problem with our currency. It's that currency depreciation adds another very complex twist to the entire cashew trade, and that's something which we need to be cognizant of. Quickly, I'll touch upon a few more challenges that we face, which is, well, I wouldn't say particular or peculiar to India, but it's there, and these are issues which are gaining importance. We have now a fairly new Food Safety Authority of India. They are pretty stringent. In fact, about 6-8 months back, several consignments of cashew were held up at port for a long time because the Food Safety Authority insisted on full spectrum checking, and that was causing a lot of loss to the importers in terms of detention, etc. But I think they've now taken a more pragmatic view, and they're allowing the imports to happen. I've also already touched upon the implementation of the GST and the fact that sometimes cashew at about 18%, is that true? What's the GST rate on processed 5? Yeah, okay. So yeah, so often when you don't get the credit, input credit, and you have to pay a GST on sale, it becomes onerous on the business. So that is some anomaly which needs correction. There are representations, I'm sure, which are taking place. And last but not the least, the quality aspects. We have improved over the years. I remember 10, 12 years back when we started using cashew bits in our products. The kind of contamination, the kind of infestation that one would get was of a very high order. The things have improved, and I'm sure going forward, it'll get better. Of course, there are certain external challenges that we are faced with, the kind of volatility in the currency, geopolitics, and certain policy decision by exporting countries. I'm sure you all know what I'm talking about. All of these can only add to the complexities. Here I would like to again touch upon the fact that what Mr. Son said, that I'm glad that Vietnam and India did something to drop the prices last year, because you were fast losing your market. There was a lot of interchange or a lot of replacement happening between almonds in India at least. I can talk about that with great degree of confidence. In fact, in our recipes, we were toggling that because almond had become cheaper. And now that cashew has dropped its levels, I think you bought back some of the market. You bought your market back, so yeah, I think that's the good news. Here again, I am amongst experts, and you people know much better than I do on this aspect. But here my team tells me that 2019 is going to be a better prospects for cashew. There's going to be a better crop, and the Indian demand of cashew, we estimate, according to AC Nielsen, that's the Indian Data Collection Agency, is going to be about 4 to 5%. So with that, comes to an end of my short presentation. I'll be happy to take questions in the question and answer session. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much for Mr. Somnath. So next will be Mr. Chen Wen from Jinwan International Resources Holding.
Very happy to be here for a brief introduction of China market of cashew in 2018 and looking forward for the 2019 market. So China now is one of the growing economy in the world. But these recent years, I think the total economy is now stabilizing and more to be a slower pace. Our company is one of the main company in north of China, sales of cashew nuts. So traditionally, China is not so good at consumption of cashew nuts. Recently, the structure change of consumption, escalation of consumption, so more and more various kinds of nuts is now consumed by Chinese consumers. But the Chinese consumers is now comparing between these several kinds of nuts. It's not like India. I think India is more traditionally consumers of cashew nuts, but China is now on the process of choosing between whole of these kinds of nuts. So I will. Total snacks is now consumption increased a lot. It's around 11%, and totally the quantity is going upward, and more and more people are now involved in consumption of various kinds of nuts. And now there is a phenomenon that people in China also starting more consume mixed nuts. So they mix various nuts from around 3 years, 2 years ago. It's not a very long time. It's not like American market and European markets. It's a long time. But only recent years, China consumers now consume mixed nuts. So they put cranberries, almonds, cashew nuts together, and mostly very healthy, and the consumers very prefer to consume this kind of mixed nuts. From 2010 to 2020, we expect China, the consumption still will increase a lot. So this is positive. Long-termly speaking, the consumption, because of the structural change, people will change from the low-end food to higher-end food, and the total economy still is growing, no matter some short corrections. But totally speaking, we're still very positive on China development, because the industrialization as the modernization in China still on the process of still have a long way to go. The per capita of income and per capita of consumption still have a lot of room and potentiality to increase. This comparatively compare with the pistachio and almonds, because China is now starting more to consume these kind of nuts. So the consumer is very sensitive, and the preference is sometimes changing, but mostly they now compare with the pistachio and almonds, we can see the portion of pistachio is really very big. And almonds also the usage of almonds is very widely used. Even this year, the China-American trade war and make the pistachio and the almond supplyability is a little bit difficult, but totally people all choose to consume pistachio and almonds. This make cashew a little bit not attractive compared with pistachio and almonds. The price of 2018 for cashew nuts is in China is similar to international market, but not as heavy, not as big fluctuation as international market. This is totally because of the control of the smuggling or something actions China in order to support the exchange rate, so make the whole of the market is not so much smooth. The supplyability is not as good as before, so the market is still not so much changed. Even at the end of 2018, even in November and December, the market in Vietnam and the international market going up, but you can see from our price chart, there's no any rebound in the market. So by the end of the 2018, China market is turning weak because of the impact of the China-American trade war. This China-American trade war, shortly, bad effects is more serious than we think. On the consumption confidence, the people are more affected by this trade war. So for the prospect of next year, we think of course this geopolitical problem will be the main factor of the consumer confidence for the short term, not the long term, of course. But we think if the agreement reached, there will be much better. There will be more inflow of the business will be more smoothly, and the total nuts consumption may be better. This is especially short-term consumer confidence influence. So the price of this year, I think, kernel, one of the reasons, even China consumption is similar to last year, but the Chinese consumption growth rate is decreasing a lot. So maybe this is one of the reasons pushing the total market price not so good in 2018. If the agreement can, but totally speaking, China, the economy is now on the way of deleveraging. Total asset debt ratio is deleveraging. So the total mood, consumption confidence is not so good in 2019, we think. But if these two scenarios can be more different. If agreement war continue, may be more serious. So hope this agreement will be reached and good for many products in the world. Now, the China government already pre-notice of this kind of risks, and the government already making some policy changes to the currency reserve, money reserve, and we already approved a lot more projects, infrastructures, and all to stimulate the economy in 2019 in order to avoid the big dipping down. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Cheng Wang, for his information about nut consumption in China. I think Mr. Cheng Wang is not buying only cashew nut. You are buying so many other nuts as well. So when I reading your information about almond in China, 42% or 40 something, huh? But cashew just 5%. Oh, this is amazing. This is, the gap is too much. I didn't know that China, like almond, too much more than the cashew like that. And also, he also hope, the trade war between America and China will be settled soon. But in Vietnam, last year, we have high hope that if there's a trade war between America and China, then the import duty of the almond will be very high. So Vietnam hoping very much that the consumption of almond will drop, and then China will import a lot cashew from Vietnam. So I think the cashew people have a different hope about the trade war. So next I will try to give you some information about the cashew market, cashew kernel market in Vietnam. And also because of this evening I have to go back to Vietnam, so I cannot attend the raw seed forum session tomorrow. So I will give you a bit of the information about the new crop and financing problem in Vietnam for the raw cashew nut. So first I would like to give you some information about the Vietnam cashew kernel exports for the last 5 years. Quantity, value, and market share. So export quantity from 2013, 2018, as you see, the export quantity in quantity is always increased. And last year, we nearly reached about 400,000 tons of kernel export. But the value is less compared to 2017. You see, the export value is more. The export quantity is more, but the value, instead of, before 2017, we reached like a 3.6 billion. But last year, it's only about $3.5 billion. So quantity more, but value less, mainly because of the unit price is cheaper. So you can see quantity up compared to 2017. So you can see the tonnage. So you can see the value. And the value is down. So Vietnam export data 2018 and 2017. So this is, we have the slide, compared by month. So some month up, some month down. 2017 in red color, you see, some month up, some month down. So on average, at the end of the year, the 2018 is, we export more than 2017. So this slide shows the value export by the month. So also some month up, compared last 2 years, 2018 and 2017. Some month up, some month down, but in the end, 2018, we export in value less than 2017. Cashew WW320 price, the most popular, because you see, cashew, we have so many grades, more than 20, 30, 40 grades, but I just, most of people just get, about the price. They just talk about the cashew of WW320 because this is the most popular price. So in 2018, when the new Vietnam and West Africa crop came in, the W320 sold at $4.7, $4.8 FOB. Then in October, before Tanzanian crop came in, the price dropped to 3.20 and then 3.30 FOB level. So about 30% price, price drop 30%. But when Tanzania government set up minimum price, Vietnam could not buy, so price up to 3.75, 3.80 FOB. So this happened in November and early December. Today price is around 340, 345 FOB with very few buyers. So the price today about 33% down compared to January last year. So this is, I give you a bit longer period of time for the price of 320 so that you can understand. Microphone. Hello? So from 2012, 2015, the price of 320 is rather stable, just a bit above $3, like a 320, 340. So the green color is the top packer, and the orange color is small medium packer price. So there's a little bit gap between top packer and small medium packer price. But as you see, 2012 and 2015, the price rather stable. So consumption keep going up, and most of our processors in Vietnam making money. That's why we invest so much money for expand the factories, putting new machines, building new factories. So that's why production capacity in Vietnam increased very much. But then in 2016 and 2017, you see the price increased very much, above $4, and then even at some point above $5. You see, in 2017, above $5. So right after that, consumption dropped. So we see, and then the price, because of high price, consumption dropped. So we see the price begin to drop. 2017, 2018, price begin to drop. So during the last October, this is the last October when Vinacast have a conference in Hạ Long Bay. The price dropped to $3.20 for W320, $3.20 per pound. Why? Because everyone thought, oh, Tanzania crop coming in, big crop, so everyone is afraid. So we sold at low price. W320 lowest level, we sold at 320. But after the Vinacast conference, there's a news that Tanzania set up minimum price. It's very high, like 1850, 1900. So after this news, Vietnam cannot buy. So you see, shoot up. The price immediately shoot up because of Tanzania is setting up minimum price so high. So the price shoot up. And then because of now new crop coming in, so we are hearing the new crop coming in, good crop everywhere, so price begin drop. So this, chart you can see the price of movement during the last 5 years. So if the price of 320 is stable, then consumption is good. But if it's up too much, we have problem. So now I talk about China market in the view of export from Vietnam. We have many chains in China market. Since 1990, about almost, like 30 years ago, most sale through China is through border, check without duty, VAT, no corporate tax, everything is cash. But since last year, most sales through the border have stopped. And the buyer must declare full and have to go through sea port with so much government control. So cost is up. So you see, recently you see Vietnam export to China not much go through the border by trucks. Now we export to China by container, in container, to the sea. So this is a new change during the last 30 years. Last 30 years, you hardly ship cashew kernel to China by container, but since last year, we ship in container because the government now control very much. And also due to new food safety regulation, spotted consumption is down very much. This is disadvantage for Nigeria and Ivory Coast cashew, raw seed, because of spotted, high spotted. So now in Vietnam, the gap between Ivory Coast, Nigeria, and against Tanzania, against Guinea-Bissau, Senegal cashew, the gap now much higher, because like a Tanzania or Guinea-Bissau, much less spotted. Consumption, we think that drop, market share drop. You see, if you see this, you can see that why I say that the market share of China dropped, because since 2013, the Chinese market share is about 19%. And then 2014 dropped to 18%, 2015 dropped to 17%, and 2018, last year, dropped to 13%. So from 19% of the export from Vietnam, China market dropped to 13% of export from Vietnam. So this is a drop in market share. So this table shows about quantity value export. So as I said, I have to go leave this evening. So I give you some information about Vietnam and Cambodia crop 2019. So the crop, why we always talk Vietnam, Cambodia together? Because majority of Cambodia cashew go to Vietnam. So it become like one crop. Vietnam and Cambodia become one crop. And last few years, Cambodia, because of vacant land, a lot of vacant land, so they grow a lot of cashew. They grow a lot of cashew. That's why production in Cambodia increased very fast every year. So the crop look very good. Cambodia crop will increase a lot. Estimated Cambodia crop 2019 can be 200,000 tons. Plenty of raw seed to buy now. The only money is not plenty due to restriction of bank loan to cashew industry. So we have plenty of raw seed, but not plenty of money. Financing problem. So because of, the bank lost so much money last year in Vietnam, so financing become problem this year. It is difficult to get loan for raw cashew nut purchase. Bank want back-to-back business. Means if you purchase raw seed, you need to show kernel sales. I think this is a mistake of the bank last year, because during the last few years, most of the processors pay the bank on time, no problem. So they don't control the back-to-back business. That's why they allow many cashew companies in Vietnam to buy the raw seed without showing them the kernel contract. So that's why last year they suffered a lot. So this year the bank changed policy. But actually this policy they applied before. Many years ago they applied this policy. But I don't know why. Sometimes they don't change, they don't apply the policy. But this year it looks as they apply the policy again. That back-to-back business. If you buy raw seed, show me the contract of kernel. But we have problem that the kernel buyer do not want to buy much forward contract. They only want to buy prompt. This is why now for us to show the kernel contract, it's difficult to show the kernel contract. You see, I want to buy raw seed, I want to borrow money. They said asking me to show the kernel contract. It is difficult. This is one of the problems we are facing now. So this is some information I give you from Vietnam. So thank you very much. So please, now if you ask any questions, Please, can you use Slido and you can participate in poll. We can show the result at the end. Thank you very much.
We must keep Mr. Wuthai-san engaged, otherwise he's going to catch an earlier flight. Mr. Wuthai-san, what is the price in Bin Phuc today for incoming new crop seed, and what do you think is the outturn?
Today, you know, the major crop is coming in is come from Cambodia, very little from Vietnam, and the price today, post drying in our factory, they report the outturn like a 50 pound outturn, and the price is 1560 or 1580. But every day we ask our supplier to reduce 500 Vietnamese đồng per kg. Mean about every day we ask them to reduce $22 per kg. And every day they bring the trucks to our factory. So like just today, our people said, you know, tomorrow what price should we buy? I said another $22 down. So this is the situation now in Vietnam.
Is the Tanzanian minister here in the room? I guess not. I thought we should all applaud and give him a big round of applause for holding this crop back, because it did assist many stakeholders to get rid of their inventory. If he was here, we should actually give him an award for keeping this stuff away from us. Thank you, sir.
So we have some question here. You know what's the real issue of the field is why don't you talk about it more extensively? True friend, I want the truth. So I'm always telling you the truth. I'm always telling you the truth. So the issue here is the main issue for we are processor. The main issue is that how much price we can sell kernel. If we sell kernel at high price, automatically Vietnamese factory will compete each other. Automatically, we cannot control each other. So automatically we will pay you the raw seed at high price. But because the bank financing problem, and also we cannot sell at high price, so we cannot pay raw seed at high price. So that's my question. That's my answer. So this one again.
Okay, so the next question is fundamentals aside, what is going to be the demand in 2019? How much has already been covered by the roasters? We expect the demand, at least in North America and in Europe, and I think it's going to be the same. I also think that it may increase slightly. I think consumption will increase at these lower levels. I don't see a decline. I mean, I'm not negative about that. As far as coverage goes, the roasters, there is a feeling in the market that the kernel prices will continue to slide as the dollar continues to strengthen. We don't see too much upside in the kernel market. At the same time, we really don't want to see this market go down by another 10% from today's levels, because I don't think it'll be healthy for the trade. These are reasonably good levels. I think we can all live with them. I do not hope that we have a large fluctuation from these levels. I don't think it'll be good for this room.
So the next question, what solution are we going to take to stop the price war of kernel between India and Vietnam? Are we trying to kill each other? I think this war can never and ever end it. This never and never ended. Indian and Vietnam always compete each other, always. So, next question, do you accept kernel from African countries, and what is quality specification, and do we need a specific machine or stand?
Yes, of course we can buy cashews from Africa, and we would love to do so. And I think with the traceability, the consumer is also highly interested. But the big question or the big remark to make is, you need to have a processing facility which is food safety certified. I mean, you need to get at least a HACCP certified factory, and even buyers are preferring now BRC or FSSC 22000. So that's crucial. And another thing to mention is that with cashews we have many different grades. So you need to go up to minimum quantities or 50 up to 100 cartons before you export, as buyers are not interested to take 4 cartons or 5 cartons or 6 cartons of each grade into a container. So, but yes, the consumer is interested in African cashews, and anyway is getting African cashew nut kernels, but they are processed in Vietnam. But their origin at the end is Africa, and they want to have traceability. They want to know where is the food which I buy, is it coming from?
I just wanted to mention something that I forgot in my presentation. The AFI is taking another look at the cashew kernel specifications. I don't know if many of you are aware about it in this room. The two main issues are the screen size on pieces. You know, there's a debate about whether the screen should be round or square. I don't know why, but there seems to be a discussion about that. And the other is about tester and the percentage of brokens that should be allowed in holes.
There is a question now on the screen. Do you think if the quality of kernels improve, will the price raise or at least stop sliding? I mean, that's a very interesting one. You have to deliver your cashew nut kernels according AFI specifications. And to me, as a broker slash trader, it's still strange that the US and the European buyers have to clean their products before it's ready to eat. I think when you make sure that the product you are delivering is 100% clean, ready to eat, so without constraints, without foreign material, I think that the buyers are ready to pay a premium for that, because now they have to clean it in their facilities in the US and in Europe, which is costing them quite a bit of money as well.
I think because of China now more moved from the trucks to the marine transportation, so now maybe next year China will be more preferred to buy from Africa. This maybe because it's more competitive than before. Before we only buy from Vietnam by trucks, it's more convenient and save time. The transportation, the time is very short. Now all by sea transportation, so maybe we prefer to try to looking for the African products. And Chinese consumer is more prefer premium quality. It's more white and more sweet, so like Cambodian seeds. So if African can improve the quality and taste, something maybe we'll be more like to consider of buying from the African processors.
I think there's another question, but it already passed. I think this question is very interesting, so I want to answer this question. Someone asking what will be the price that can get the buying demand back. I think considering the supply of rapeseed keep increasing, like this year, like this, I think the price of WW320 should be around like a 320 or 330 FOB level to be attractive to the buyers, to the consumption. That translates the raw cashew nut in Ivory Coast, 48 pound out turn, should around $1,200 CNF Vietnam. So this, I think at this price level, the demand should be okay for this year. That's my answer.
Just expanding on what Mr. Wuthai-san said, you need to start the season at a reasonable level and allow all the stakeholders to make a little bit of money going forward. If you open this season at a high price, especially when, there have been some kernel sales that have taken place at these current levels, you're going to end up with another problem like we had last year. We need to be aware of this, before we start getting too excited.
So anyone can answer the question. Would all panelists emphasize on a point that rotational pricing need to see at kernel parity? Yes, it is. Always, at the end of the day, the kernel price will be decide the raw seed price. And we have made big mistake. Vietnam had big mistake last year. So we cannot make mistake every year. Then we'll be out of business.
I'm taking the question from Anonymous. How important are traceability and carbon footprint compared to price? Are buyers willing to pay for more African kernels that offer these? I think as an African processor that you have a unique selling point when you can tell the story about traceability and carbon footprint and show your customer what it actually means. Is it automatically giving you a better price? I'm not confirming that, but it will give you a long-term future. I mean, you definitely will have a preference over other buyers, and usually it gives you a slightly better price.
As far as India is concerned, it's a very price-sensitive market. And if I take an analogy from other commodities that we import into India, namely palm oil and sugar, there is this international body of sugar called Bon Sucro and palm oil, Greenpeace, etc., keep pushing us to import only green certified palm oil, but it's going to take a while. Work has started happening in India, but the consumer still is very price conscious, and maybe another 4, 5 years, 6 years, we will see products which declare on their labels that they are from a traceability point of view, they're compliant, but today, the Indian consumer doesn't pay more.
Because of the time is up, so I would like to answer some of the few questions about Vietnam. I think maybe they talk a lot about Vietnam. So I think last year Vietnam Bank didn't put a price cap on the rate of raw cashew nut. So because of they suffer too much, so only this year they put, like a maximum price that you can buy for raw cashew nut. And about, you're talking about, how Vietnam can win back, the credit, because of a lot of default from Vietnam. But I think you should look back in the past when raw cashew nut price is up. How many contracts of raw cashew nut selling to Vietnam have been renegotiated or not performed? So you should look back on this, because in the past when raw seed up, a lot of contract, $100 increase on the price enhancement, $150, $200, something like that, or many contracts has been cancelled, not performed. So because if business always like this is tough. So last year when price down, so you also face a lot of problem of the performance of contract from Vietnamese shippers. And about how Vietnam can get out this crisis, it takes a few years, because normally, because I have been in cashew industry almost 25, 26 years, when there's a crisis, after 1 or 2 years, the bank will be very strict. So after 1 or 2 years, because of bank strict, the raw seed price is low, so processors begin to make money. After 1 or 2 years, they begin to show the bank that we are doing well. So then we can go over the crisis. The bank begin to feel more happier about cashew industry and they can begin to finance again. So, sorry, ladies and gentlemen, because of the time limited, so I have to end this session here. Thank you very much for your participation.
I have a better question. We should ask the audience, what do you think the price of cashew kernels is going to be in 2019? Pankaj, where are you? $4. Going once, going twice. Pratap, he left the room.
I would not like to put a number to what the price would be, because that would be foolish on my part, and I want to come here again next year. But I strongly feel that in the second half of the year, we will see prices which are higher than what they are today. That is one thing that I'm pretty sure about.
People, yes, the price of W320, I think, should be around the level of 320 or 320 and 330 FOB, Vietnam. This is what I think is a reasonable price for 2019. So translate into raw cashew nut, Ivory Coast should be around $1,200 CNF Vietnam. That's what I believe.
Yeah, we have put the question on that. You have a Slido. Can you just put your vote? So that would be very interesting to know about. What is your opinion about the price in 2019?
Oh,
Participate in the
so
voting now.
$75%.
Yeah. As you start putting your votes, like, this keeps changing. Like this.
Be brave. It's not costing you anything.
That's all.
So I think the view of the audience is very correct. Yeah? Most of people believe that the price of W320 should be $3 to maximum $3.5. Yes, I think this is correct. Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for.
Thank you so much to all our panelists, especially to Mr. Tai Song for bringing in that much needed humor. Thank you so much. And we do hope that the prices of almond would drop further for, especially for the common man, for the consumers like us. We truly had a very illuminating session, and once again, thanking our panelists for providing a foresight for the future and more clarity on the subject. And with that, we request our moderator to kindly present mementos to all our panelists. We would start with Mr. Somnath Chatterjee. Yeah, like that. The other way around. Thank you to Mr. Ranjit Walia. We thank Mr. Kees Blokland. And to Mr. Sheng Wen. And to present a memento to our moderator, Mr. Tai Song, we would request our Honorable Minister, who's amidst us, Mr. Jafet Husenga, to kindly do the honors. We'd be very grateful if you could join us here on the dais. Thank you so much, sir. And a request to all our panelists for a quick group photograph so that we can keep it for records.